Hi, my brain hates me.
Stop.
Today I would like to talk about depression. I think that in our society, depression is something that is still taboo to talk about. I think we're perfectly fine talking about therapy and going to therapy and even medication, but we're not actually okay with talking about depression and how it affects our lives and ourselves and things like that. So I'm going to talk about my struggles with depression, and I'm going to talk about my current therapy, and it's not an easy topic, and I just got home from therapy, so that's why it's really on my mind, because everything's really scattered right now in my life. Things have been really difficult the past couple of weeks and very stressful and chaotic, and I have been very low and very depressed. So what better time to talk about it than when you're depressed? So people can really see when you're in there. Yeah. So today I went to art therapy, and my art therapist really honed in on the fact that things are chaotic and the fact that I don't seem to have a lot of emotional control in my life, or feel like I have a lot of emotional control in my life. There are things that are out of my control. There are lots of financial stressors. I have lots of medical bills. I haven't worked in 2 years because of my medical condition, and my husband is the primary breadwinner, and there's lots of pressure on him, and that causes him to have his own issues, and my son has lots of stress because it's his first year in high school, and so he's struggling, and he has some anxiety things going on. So, you know, everybody in my household has something going on, and it either does or does not relate to my pain condition. I have battled with depression since my teens. I have attempted suicide twice, seriously, in my life. I have suicidal thoughts on a semi-regular basis. I think I might have mentioned in a previous video that prior to May of this year, I was having suicidal thoughts on a very, very regular basis. This past week and this past couple of weeks have been difficult. I've had some suicidal thoughts more frequently, just because my pain has really been up there. I've mentioned that I'm back in the 7 to 10 pain range pretty much all the time now, and that's not a happy place to be in. So it makes dealing with external stressors that much harder. So my art therapist gave me some homework, which I'm excited about, actually. My homework is to sculpt a goddess of my own creation and design that represents the control that I do have in my life. Creation and destruction and joy and happiness and things like that. And it's supposed to be a totem that I can reference when I feel out of control. And this is the thing that I really love about art therapy, that it's not just about thinky work. It's about getting in there with your hands and engaging other parts of your mind. So I have this plan in my head. I really have visualized it. I have an affinity for Eastern gods and goddesses, and my disdain for cultural appropriation aside, I just find them very beautiful aesthetically, and so I love the mighty octopus. This was the octopus that went with me to art therapy today because I needed some extra love and softness and support. Um, so it's going to be an octopus goddess, and it may be an androgynous deity figure. I don't know that I really need female energy. I really don't know. I just know that there will be tentacles and it will be beautiful, and I'm going to use beads to make the little suckers on the tentacles, and that's as far as the design has gotten, but I'm going to work on that today, hopefully. I have terracotta clay with which I have been making aromatherapy pendants that you wear them and they release the scent of lavender, which is very calming. So that was another thing that my art therapist suggested, just to get in there and work with clay. I, of course, turned it into a craft project, because that's what I do. I can't just, do something without a purpose. I have to make everything purposeful. So, yes. So, depression. When you live in a household with somebody with chronic pain, you probably hear my dog yipping in the background. They have been freaking out about something that is outside, so I have put them outside so that they can freak out about it out there while I record this, and I will let them in afterwards, so they are not in any pain or anything. They're fine. They're just over there staring at me and being pathetic. When you live with somebody with chronic pain, there are numerous things that happen in the emotional household. It's like you live in this bubble. So first you have the person voguing, the person with chronic pain, and you have their comorbid issues, such as whatever they had going on psychologically prior to the chronic pain condition happening, which for me would be high-functioning autism, depression, anxiety, PTSD from traumatic events during my childhood and teens, and so forth. So that was all before my chronic pain. Then you add chronic pain to that, and that's a fun bag of the opposite of awesome. Then you have the emotional things that are going on with everyone else in the household prior to the chronic pain condition. So whatever my husband is bringing to the party, whatever my son is bringing to the party. So you have, in my household right now, 3 people, 3 emotional beings who had emotional issues prior to my chronic pain event. Chronic pain event happens, and then suddenly you have financial stressors, you have pain itself, which causes an amount of stress and depression and anxiety. You have coping, and you have lack of coping, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So the cycle is like this. I'm in the 7 to 10 pain range now. I will be under the covers, in pain, possibly depressed, hiding from the world because the world hurts in multiple ways. And my husband comes home after a long day of being stressed out and working hard at his very physical job, because he's the primary breadwinner and his job is the make or break. If he doesn't work, we may not eat or have a roof over our head. So there's a lot on his shoulders, and he's very stressed out about that. So he comes home, I'm not functional. So he becomes upset or depressed or what have you about that. So you take my depression, and then you add his depression. And then you have my son, who has his own issues and stress about school and anxiety about his first year of high school, and you add that on top of it. So in this bubble in our household, you have all of this negative emotional energy floating around, and you have these 3 people kind of bouncing off of each other, and there aren't really any emotional boundaries, and it's very hard to set emotional boundaries because a lot of the emotions are about the other people. My son has a problem with school. I feel guilty for not being able to help him with something in school because of my condition. And my husband feels like he doesn't have enough time to get things done in the home. I feel guilty because of this. I am grumpy and fuss at people because I'm in pain. It makes my husband be in a bad mood because of this. Like, everything sort of stems from something else, and we try to take ownership of our feelings, but that's not always easy because it seems like our feelings are interrelated and interlocked. So the thing that I'm working on right now is trying to separate myself and take ownership of what I'm feeling and why I'm feeling it, and knowing that, okay, my depression is my depression, and it's not caused because of you, and I'm not sad because of you, and all of these things. My feelings are my feelings, but I do feel responsible. I do feel guilty, and I do not want to exist sometimes, and it's really hard when you feel like the entire problem is your fault. You feel like the entire thing that has gone wrong in your family's life is because of you. All of the medical bills, all of the financial stress, all of the added emotional negativity stems from the pain that comes from right here in your body. And that is really difficult to cope with. And I can tell myself it's not my fault all I want to. But when it comes down to it, it's my body's fault. So it's hard to separate that. So that's what therapy's for. So that's where things like suicidal thoughts come from, and feelings of worthlessness and guilt, etc. I have lots of links to crisis hotlines on my blog, and I have links to local crisis lines, numbers for local crisis lines that my therapist encourages me to use. However, I don't really like talking to people on the phone, so I have looked for crisis chats, but I typically only have my existential crises after midnight, and 24-hour chats are closed after midnight, which I don't get. So usually I just wake up my husband and I go, honey, I'm concerned about myself right now, and I really need you to be awake with me right now. So, yeah. My art therapist fusses at me for not using them. But she's good. So, really that's what I wanted to talk about today. I don't feel like I've done anybody any good by talking about this, but I feel better for sharing it and being open and honest about it. So, I'm going to put links down below if you have depression issues or anything that you'd like to talk about. Feel free to message me, or I hope that you're okay, and I hope that you are getting the help that you need, and if you're not, I hope that you will use some of the resources in the links below. And if you're not having a good day, I hope that tomorrow's better, and if tomorrow's not better, then there's always next week, next month, or next year. So hit subscribe, and that's really it. Off to